ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्यदि नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे अखण्डमण्डलाकारव्याप्तेन चराचरं तत्पाददर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ईशोपनिषद मंत्र 12 अन्धत्तमप्रविशन्ते यसम्भूतिम् उपासते ततो भूय इव ते तमो यवु सम्भूत्यां रतः. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do the worshippers of impersonal Brahman. In this verse, what is the destination of Devata worshippers and Brahmajyoti worshippers has explained here. In the Purport, Prabhupada says the Sanskrit word Sambhutim refers to those who have no independent existence. Asambhutim. And Sambhutim is the absolute personality of a Godhead who is absolutely independent of everything. In the Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, text number 2, the absolute personality of a Godhead, Sri Krishna, states, Name vidu suraganaha prabhavam na maharshaya aham adihi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Neither the host of the demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences. For in every respect, I am the source of the demigods and sages. Thus, Krishna is the origin of the powers delegated to the demigods, great sages and mystics. Although they are endowed with the great powers, their powers are limited, and thus it is very difficult for them to know how Krishna himself appears by his own internal potency in the form of a man. So here, the word that has been used for Devatas is asambhuti. Andattama pravishanti ye asambhuti upasate. Who worship asambhuti means demigods or Devatas will enter into the darkest region of ignorance. And bhuyaha iva te tamaha sambhutyam rataha. So here sambhutyam word is used for absolute personality of a Godhead, who is absolutely independent of everything. So one who worshipped Nirvishesh Brahman, he goes in the deepest dark ignorance, and who worshipped Devatas, he goes into the Tama, Andattama. So Prabhupada further says that many philosophers and great rishis or mystics try to distinguish the absolute from the relative by their tiny brain power. Many philosophers and great rishis or mystics try to distinguish the absolute from the relative by their tiny brain power. This can only help them reach the negative conception of absolute truth without realizing any positive truth of the absolute. Definition of the absolute by negation is not complete. Because generally when Brahmavadis, they speak about Lord, then they quote from the Upanishads, Naiti, Naiti, Naiti. Oh, he's not like this, he's not like that, he's not like this. But that definition of absolute truth in negation is not complete. That's what Prabhupada says. Such a negative definition lead one to create a concept of one's own. Thus, one imagines that the absolute must be formless and without qualities. Such a negative qualities are simply the reversals of relative. Material qualities and are therefore also relative. By conceiving of the absolute in this way, one can at the outmost reach the impersonal effulgence of God, known as Brahman. But one cannot make further progress to Bhagavan, the personality of a Godhead. So who is caught up in this idea of Neti, Naiti, Naiti? He never understands the real qualities of the God and who is a person. They never go further because everything they try to relate with their own existence, with their own misconception of this body. And Prabhupada says, such a mental speculators do not know that the absolute personality of a Godhead, Krishna, Godhead is Krishna. That the impersonal Brahman is the glaring effulgence of his transcendental body. Or that the Paramatma, the super soul, is his all-pervading plenary representation. Nor do they know that Krishna has his eternal form with its transcendental qualities of eternal bliss and knowledge. The dependent demigods and great sages imperfectly consider him to be a powerful demigod, and they consider the Brahman effulgence to be the absolute truth. So Lord Krishna, whom they consider as an incarnation of Vishnu, an incarnation of that Parabrahman who has taken a material form. So this speculative knowledge actually kills them. And they think that Parabrahman is totally independent. But Krishna is like one of the god or demigods. And they try to equate him with the other gods, other demigods. Or sometimes they consider him maybe a more powerful than the other demigods. But he is demigod, not the absolute truth. But the devotees of Krishna, by dint of their surrendering unto him in an unalloyed devotion, can know that he is the absolute person and that everything emanates from him. And that's what Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita. Aham sarvasya prabho matta sarva pravartate. He is the master of everyone and everything emanates from him. Even this Brahma Jyoti, And that's why his devotees who render loving devotional service to him, only they can understand to him, as Krishna says in 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yachasmi tattvataha. Only devotees, they can understand me as it is, tattvataha. Sorry, Krishna. Such a devotees continuously render loving devotional service unto Krishna, the fountainhead of everything. In the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, 20th and verse number 23, it is stated that only unintelligent, bewildered persons, driven by a strong desire for sense gratification, worship demigods for the temporary relief of temporary problems. Where Lord says, Kamasta Sthirita-jnana prapadyante anya devata tam tam niyamasthaya prakritya niyata swaya. Due to the material desires and material intelligence, they worship the demigods. And what happens to them? Lord clearly explains that those are the people who try to get something which is temporary. Because by worshipping demigods, what you are going to get on the temporary result. Because demigods themselves are temporary. They live for like a 1 month, 1 year, for 71 Divya Yugas. And that's why whatever they give, that is also temporary. Antavandu phalam tesham tad bhavati alpamayasam. Devan devajyanti madhyayanti mamika. Lord clearly says, so whomever worship demigods, they go to them. And whoever worships him, they go to him. Since living being is materially entangled, he has to be relieved from the material bondage entirely to attain permanent relief on the spiritual plane, where eternal bliss, life, and knowledge exist. Sri Ishopanishad therefore instructs that we should not seek temporary relief of our difficulties by worshipping the dependent demigods who can bestow only temporary benefit. Rather, we must worship the absolute personality of a Godhead Krishna, who is all attractive and who can bestow upon us complete freedom from material bondage by taking back home, back to Godhead. So here clearly Prabhupada says that if you really want to have an eternal result of your worship, then you should worship the eternal Lord. Because he's the one who is going to give you freedom from all material bondage. And again, he quotes from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, this text number 23, that Antavantu Phalam Tesha, that the worshippers of the demigod can go to the planets of the demigods. The moon worshipper can go to the moon, the sun worshipper to the sun, etc. Modern scientists are now venturing to the moon with the help of rockets, but this is not really new attempt. With their advanced consciousness, human beings are naturally inclined to travel in outer space and to reach other planets, either by spaceships, mystic powers, or demigod worship. In the Vedic scriptures, it is said that one can reach other planets by any one of these three ways. But the most common way is by worshipping the demigod presiding over a particular planet. In this way, one can reach the moon planet, the sun planet, and even Brahmaloka, the topmost planet in this verse, in this universe. However, all planets in the material universe are temporary residences. The only permanent planet are the Vaikuntha Lokas. These are found in a spiritual sky where the personality of a Godhead himself predominates. As Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, text number 16, Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna Mamu upetya kaunteya punar janma na vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all the places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains my abode, O son of Kunti, never take birth again. Sri Ishopanishad, Sri Ishopanishad points out that one who worship the demigods and attains to their material planet still remain in the darkest region of the universe. The whole universe is covered by the gigantic material elements. It is just like a coconut covered by a shell and half filled with water. Since its covering is airtight, the darkness within is dense, and therefore the sun and the moon are required for illumination. Outside the universe is the vast and unlimited Brahmajyoti expansions, which is filled with the Vaikuntha lokas. The biggest and highest planet in a Brahmajyoti is Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavan, where the Supreme Personality of a Godhead, Sri Krishna himself resides. After Lord Sri Krishna never leaves Krishna Loka, although he dwells there with his eternal associates. He is omnipresent throughout the complete material and spiritual cosmic manifestation. This fact has already been explained in Mantra 4. The Lord is present everywhere, just like the sun, yet he is situated in one place. Just as the sun is situated in its own undeviating orbit. The problems of life cannot be solved simply by going to the moon planet or to some other planet above or below it. Therefore, Sri Ishopanishad advises us not to bother with any destination within this dark material universe, but to try to get out of it and reach the effulgent kingdom of God. There are many pseudo worshippers who become religionists only for the sake of name and fame. Such a pseudo-religionists do not wish to get out of this universe and reach the spiritual sky. They only want to maintain the status quo in the material world under the garb of worshipping the Lord. The atheist and impersonalist lead such a foolish pseudo-religionist into the darkest regions by preaching the cult of atheism. The atheists directly deny the existence of the Supreme Personality of a Godhead. And the impersonalists support the atheist by stressing the impersonal aspect of the Supreme Lord. Thus, far we have not come across any mantra in Ishopanishad in which the Supreme Personality of a Godhead is denied. It is said that he can run faster than anyone. Those who are running after other planets are certainly persons. And if the Lord can run faster than all of them, how can he be impersonal? The impersonal conception of Supreme Lord is another form of ignorance arising from an imperfect conception of absolute truth. So very wonderfully Prabhupada has explained from the verses of Ishopanishad that Lord is a person. Taddure tadvantike tadantarasya sarvasya tadu asyasya tadu asyasya bahyataha. So he is near and he is far away. And he runs faster than anyone else. So if he can run, means he is a person. So that we need to understand. And that's why Prabhupada says none of the shloka of Ishopanishad states that Lord is impersonal, but he is a person. And because most of the people, they have an imperfect conception of absolute truth as a person. They think that he is an impersonal Brahman. And then further Prabhupada says, the ignorant pseudo-religionists and the manufacturer of so-called incarnations who directly violate the Vedic injunctions are liable to enter into the darkest region of the universe because they mislead those who follow them. These impersonalists generally pose themselves as the incarnations of God to foolish persons who have no knowledge of Vedic wisdom. If such a foolish men have any knowledge at all, it is more dangerous in their hands than ignorance itself. That's why sometimes it is called that active fool is more dangerous, or intelligent fool is more dangerous than the normal fool. In the scriptures, there are recommendations for worshipping demigods under certain circumstances. But at the same time, this scripture states that there is normally no need for this. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text number 23, third time Prabhupada is quoting this verse in this purport. Antavantu phalam tesham. It is clearly stated that the result derived from worshipping the demigods are not permanent. Since the entire material universe is impermanent, whatever is achieved within the darkness of material existence is also impermanent. The question is how to obtain real permanent life. The Lord says, as soon as one reaches Him by devotional service, which is one and only way to approach the personality of a Godhead, Bhaktyatu Ananya Shakya. To attain the Lordship, there is only one way, and that is Ananya Bhakti, Ananava devotional service. Which is the one and only way to approach personality of a Godhead. One attains complete freedom from the bondage of birth and death. In order, the path of salvation from the material clutches fully depends upon the principles of knowledge and detachment gained from serving the Lord. These pseudo religionists have neither knowledge nor detachment from material affairs. For most of them want to live in the golden shackles of material bondage under the shadow of philanthropic activities disguised as religious principles. By a false display of religious sentiments, they present a show of a devotional service while indulging in all sorts of immoral activities. In this way, they pass as a spiritual masters and devotees of God. Such a violators of religious principles have a no respect for the authoritative acharyas, the holy teachers in the strict disciplic succession. They ignore the Vedic injunction, Acharyopasanam. One must worship the Acharya, and Krishna's statement in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text number 2, Evam Parambara Praptam. The supreme science of God is received through the disciplic succession. Instead, to mislead the people in general, they themselves become so-called acharyas, but they do not even follow the principles of the acharyas. The rogues are the most dangerous elements in human society because there is no religious government. They escape punishment by the law of the state. They cannot, however, escape the law of the Supreme, who has clearly declared in the Bhagavad Gita that envious demigod, envious demons, in the garb of religious propagandists, shall be thrown into the darkest region of the hell. In the Bhagavad Gita 16th chapter, text number 19 and 20th, Lord says, Tanaham dvishatha kuram samsareshu naradhaman kshipamyaham ajastram ashubham asureshu eva yonisho. Asurim yonim mavanna mudham janmani janmani mam aprapyeya kaunteya tato yantyat gatihi. Adhamam gatihi. So what is their destination? Is nothing but the darkest religion of hell. Darkest region of hell. Sri Ishopanishada confirms that these pseudo religionists are heading toward the most obnoxious place in the universe after the completion of their spiritual master's business, which they conduct simply for sense gratification. So this verse actually clearly mentions about pseudo gurus and impersonalists, how they fall down from their position. In one of the conversations, one devotee, he asked Prabhupada about the impersonalist. Even they attain the Brahma Jyoti, why they fall down from there? And it seems that they have made a spiritual advancement because of which they have attained the impersonal feature of the Lord. They have attained the Brahma Jyoti. So Prabhupada clearly says here, no, they don't make a spiritual advancement. They come down. Don't you see the impersonalist? And he quotes about one sannyasi that he took a sannyas, but he back came to the hospital making. They are not advancing. They are coming back, falling down. While they have a no engagement in a devotional service, they say, oh, why are you finding God anywhere? Here is God, Daridra Narayan, this poor man. That's it. That is not an advancement. They are coming down. Now they come down and they defame Narayana, that Narayana has become Daridra. They are saying that Narayana is Daridra. In Surat, actually, this conversation took place. They asked about very influential person that time. And Prabhupada said, yeah, it seems to be they have made advancement. But again, they come down on the material platform and they arrange for all other things. So, if you don't have a positive engagement for your mind, intelligence, and your senses, which only can happen when you render devotional service to the Lord. Because rendering devotional service means engaging yourself with this body, mind, and intelligence in the service of the Lord. So once all these three things are engaged in the service of the Lord, then there is no question of engaging them simultaneously for the sense gratification. So one who takes up Krishna consciousness, for him it's easy to purify himself and attain his eternal blissful form and his eternal existence, where he can go and take association of their lordship and really attain the spiritual place. So this is what has explained by Prabhupada in the 12th mantra, the result of worshipping the impersonal Brahman and worshipping the demigods. So have any question or any comment? If not, then we can go for mantra 13. Anyad evahu sambhavad anyad ahur asambhavad iti sushrama dhiranam ye nasa tada vichakshire. Translation by Prabhupada. It is said that one result is obtained by worshipping the supreme cause of all causes, and that another result is obtained by worshipping what is not supreme. All this is heard from the undisturbed authorities who clearly explained it. So again here, Prabhupada, again here in this verse, it is said that ye nasatada vichachakshare. Vichachakshire means which is perfectly explained. From whom? Sushruma Dhirana. You should hear it from Dhira, the undisturbed authority. So this, as Prabhupada says in this purport, that unless one hears from a bona fide acharya who is never disturbed by the changes of material world, one cannot have the real key to understand knowledge. The bona fide spiritual master who has also heard the Shruti mantras or Vedic knowledge from his undisturbed acharya never present anything that is not mentioned in the Vedic literature. So here again Prabhupada emphasis on understanding from the authority. Understanding from the authority person who comes in a proper parampara. Because nowadays there are many people, they have started their own parampara. They say that, oh, I've got this knowledge, I got a sakshatkar of their lordship, and then I have started giving this knowledge. But about the authority also, Lord has explained that evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakalena mahata yoganashta parampara. The supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of a time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. And that's why when this bhakti yoga was given by Lord himself, which is principally explained in the Bhagavad Gita, after some time it was like a disappeared, because the parampara of kings were finished when kings were gone. After that, the parampara of Acharya has started in this age of Akali. And this same knowledge of their lordship, which is presented by these four different sampradayas, Vaishnava sampradayas, Shri, Rudra, Kumar, and Brahma sampradaya. So if you get knowledge from this particular paramparas, then you are going to get the knowledge as it is, which is explained by their lordship. And Krishna clearly says that only those who have lost their senses worship the demigods for the partly rewards. And ultimately he advises that one give up all other ways and modes of worship and fully surrender unto him. That's what he says in the 18th chapter, 66 verse. Sarva dharmana parityajya mamekam sharanam praja. Aham tvam sarva papeptu mokshayishami ma shucha. Only those who are cleansed of all sinful reactions can have such an unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord. That is also a nice verse actually. He says that someone who is free from the sins can render devotional service to the Lord. Otherwise, it's not possible, because while performing sin, you can't perform devotional service. And sin means voluntarily committing something which is against the scriptures for our own sense gratification. And there are sinful living entities who find different ways to commit a sin. And that's why Lord says that Eshantu Antagatam Papam Jananam Punya Karmana Te Dvandvanu Moha Nirmukta Bhajate Mam Ananya Bhak. Who can worship him? The person who is freed from Antagata Papa, who has freed from the Papa. Only he can render devotional service to the Lord. Because according to the Vedanta Sutra, Sambhuta is the source of birth and sustenance, as well as the reservoir that remains after annihilation, as explained in the first canto and first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. That is Janma Asya, Janmadi Asya Yataha. The natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra by the same author, that is Srimad Bhagavatam, maintains that the source of all emanations is not like a dead stone, but is abhidnya, fully conscious, the primary Lord Sri Krishna. And Lord also explains in Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, text number 26, that Vedaham samatitani vartamanani cha arjuna bhavishani cha bhutani mam vedana kashchana. That he is in the beginning of everything. And he is conscious of past, present, and future of everyone. And that's why no one, including demigods such as Shiva and Brahma, knows him fully. Certainly, half educated spiritual leaders who are disturbed by the tides of material existence cannot know him fully. They try to make some compromise by making the mass of humanity the object of worship. But they do not know that such a worship is only a myth because the masses are imperfect. So, what we can understand from this verse is that one should worship their lordship as per the instructions of the dhira. And whose are those dhira? Whose are those dhiras? The person who has a quality of goodness, whom we called as a brahmana. Then who is brahmana? Prabhupada says here, anyone can qualify as a brahmana if he follows the path of devotional service under the guidance of bona fide spiritual master. And Srimad Bhagavatam, it clearly states in second canto, fourth chapter, text number 18, Kirat Punindra Andra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Shumbha Yavana Kasadaya Yanne च पापयदपाश्रयाश्रयाः शुद्ध्यन्ति तस्मै प्रभविष्णवे नमः. Any low-born person can be purified by the guidance of a pure devotee of the Lord. And for the Lord is extraordinarily powerful. When one attains Brahminical qualification, he becomes happy and enthusiastic to render devotional service to the Lord. Automatically, the science of God is unveiled before him. By knowing the science of God, one gradually becomes freed from material attachments, and one's doubtful mind becomes crystal clear. By the grace of the Lord, one who attains this stage is a liberated soul and can see the Lord in every step of life. This is the perfection of Sambhava as described in this mantra of Ishopanishada. So we'll stop here and we'll continue the mantra 14 in our next session. If you have any questions, you have few minutes, you can think about that, and in the next section you can ask that question. Hare Krishna.